We find that a part of your Majesty's subjects in the province of Massachusetts Bay have proceeded so far to resist the authority of the Supreme Legislature that a rebellion at this time actually exists within the said province. And we see with the utmost concern that they have been countenanced and encouraged by unlawful combinations and engagements entered into by your Majesty's subjects in several of the other colonies, to the injury and oppression of many of their innocent fellow subjects, resident within the kingdom of Great Britain and the rest of your Majesty's dominion. We shall pay attention and regard to any real grievances laid before us, and whenever any of the colonies shall make a proper application to us, we shall be ready to afford them every just and reasonable indulgence. At the same time, we beseech your Majesty that you will enforce due obedience to the laws and authority of the Supreme Legislature, and it is our fixed resolution, at the hazard of our lives and properties, to stand by your Majesty against all rebellious attempts in the maintenance of the just rights of your Majesty and the two houses of Parliament. This was the official statement of rebellion given to the Crown by Parliament in 1775. It sounds exactly like something we might hear on the floor of Congress today in Washington, D.C., with regards to the state of Florida, because it's come to that. We are in a state of open rebellion. And believe me, it's not going to be for the faint-hearted. Things are going to get tough, and we're going to find out who the pretenders are and who those are who are ready to sacrifice it all. You see, in any war, you put your back to mine, I put my back to yours, and let's do what we got to do, whatever is necessary. That's the requirement. The Florida legislature went into special session today. We covered it in a live event earlier, and we have, for all intents and purposes, terminated OSHA in the state of Florida, as we have many other federal influences. We are going our own way. So far, Biden has shown himself to be the coward that he is. And they aren't pushing back. If it were me, there would be a geriatric, confused, old Biden-type individual in Washington, D.C. from now till kingdom come, so that the states could stand back up and govern their territories the way the Constitution intended. Not top-down, not from Washington, D.C. Who remembers the Sons of Liberty? I'm sure a lot of you do. I'm sure a lot of the images you see on your screen here, you're very, very familiar with. Watering the Tree of Liberty, all this type of thing. Well, there's a story that didn't get enough attention. I'm sure a lot of you have made all sorts of ballistic preparations for what eventually might occur. But there are other preparations that need to be made. See, this is the commander of the British forces and his wife in 1775, and something very interesting happened that, had it not happened, there would have been no Concord Minutemen. There would have been no Lexington and Concord. The English crown would have, quote-unquote, nipped it in the bud, so to speak, had it not been for one brave woman who tipped off the militia. And they were awakened, and they were able to organize and coalesce. You see, she provided intelligence. She provided intelligence that the British were coming. A lot of people talk about Paul Revere. A lot of people don't talk about how Paul Revere came across that information. They didn't go far enough up the chain. See, sometimes it takes those that we may not think are allies to actually provide us the keys that we need to win. Earlier today, during the live, as a surprise to me and many others, this incredibly beautiful woman walked out after the governor got done speaking and began talking about her lawsuit against a certain airline. She was a flight attendant, apparently, and she has some issues was forced with losing her job, just like so many others. But in my chat, all of a sudden, a bunch of do-gooders and busybodies started taking issue with the color of her hair, her choice of dress, all this type of thing. And it just got me wondering, once again, if people are really ready to do what's necessary to fight. People love watching these shows about, this is from Washington Spy's Turn, and they think that fighting a war, fighting a rebellion is clean and neat and tidy and orderly. It isn't. In fact, in some ways, it's quite ugly. In this particular instance, this guy here, who did a fantastic job, by the way, I don't know the actor's name, but he did about as good a job as you could do of acting like a horrible individual. I mean, you get caught up in this guy's persona and you're like, man, this is some major league acting. You see, this woman, her husband had been captured, and of course all of these British soldiers are around during this occupation time. And while she leads this guy on a little bit, she has her eye on his commander here. And even while her husband's in prison, she does what she needs to do. Now, some people get all bent out of shape about this, but you see, we have a governor that's going to do what needs to be done. And that's the bigger story. People need to be taught why America was founded, what the principles that made our country unique were. They need to be taught that our rights do not come from government. They come from God. Don't ever think that caving to the mob is going to save your bacon. That's just going to cause them to come back more. And believe me, within our group of those who wish to fight back against Washington, D.C., we have some people that are hedging their bets. We have some people that still want to hang on to the ideas of British colonial rule just under Washington, D.C. Everything always being so black and white. This is right and that's wrong. I would never do this, and this is the only way I'm going to fight, and all this kind of stuff. You see, when a society like ours is veering away from the truth, those who tell the truth will face fire. And Florida's getting ready to take quite a bit of it. Both literal and figurative. That type of society goes after truth tellers more than anything, because those who tell truth threaten their power. In times like these, there's no substitute for courage. And you want to find courage? You want to find courage, you'll find it in Florida. I would defy anyone to provide for me, any other leader, governor or otherwise, that has invoked the name of God, the power of prayer and faith on as many occasions, or any occasion really, as Governor DeSantis. Now here's where people are probably going to get their nose bent out of shape. Who remembers Victoria Treese? See, she was in the news here in Florida recently because she was faced with a choice of losing her home, not being able to feed her kids or pay her bills. So she went on OnlyFans and created a page and with some pictures that might bother some people. But guess what? Victoria Treese doesn't have to worry about vax mandates. Victoria Treese works from home. You see, in war, you do what you've got to do. Who remembers the story of Brandy Love at Turning Point USA? How she goes and she's made millions and millions in an industry that a lot of people turn their nose up at. And she showed up dressed just like any other Florida mom. Charlie Kirk, Dan Bongino, Rick Scott, Kent Timpf, and a whole bunch of other busybody so-called conservatives had her thrown out. Had her thrown out because they didn't agree with her choices. And I'm sure I've got women already, and maybe some men, down in the comment section typing about how wrong I am and how God would never agree with this, that, and the other. Really? Why don't you try cracking a Bible? Anybody know who Rahab is? The story of Jericho? See, the Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exalt you over you with loud singing. Go look up the story of Rahab before you go judging Brandy Love or Victoria Treese or anything else that has to be done when it's war. And trust me, when it's war, you do what you got to do. If this woman would win her lawsuit against whatever airline, because the judge in charge of it maybe just liked the cut of her jib, so to speak, or how she looked, or her smile, if it was a 50-50 in that judge's mind and that tipped it to the 51-49, all's fair in love and war. And make no mistake, that's where it is. We are not a state. We are a republic, and we are in open rebellion. You see, the colonies, by referring to themselves as colonies, made the king's case for them, did they not? By literally defining themselves as colonies. Colonies of what? Colonies of the Crown of Great Britain. And subject to their laws. You call yourself a state? A state? You mean like of the United States? See what they did there? See what they did there? The United States of America? See, by very definition, that puts you under the heavy hand of Washington, D.C. Stop referring to yourself as such. And start referring to yourself in the proper context, and it will change everything. Oh, and they aren't going to like it. We have many rows to hoe yet, so to speak. We have a lot of house cleaning to do in Florida, but we've begun chasing out the rats, shining light on the cockroaches, and sending them scurrying. In your state, it's going to be up to you. Florida's got its hands full right now. But we've got the people in place to get the job done. And like I said, it's going to be more than just popping tin cans off hay bales, printing up flyers, having militia meetings, and making posts on social media. The real work is done where most can't see it. And right now, not many people can see what's going on in the special legislature session up in Tallahassee. We're doing the boring work of codifying away Washington, D.C.'s influence in the new Free Republic of Florida. And I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.